I think we all face this problem of loneliness. I think one of the greatest challenges today is just the sense of we don't feel connection to anybody, especially ourselves. And I think much of what we do in leisure and also in our pursuit of pleasure is really to overcome the sense of loneliness. And I think a lot of us we try our very best to avoid facing this connection we feel not just with others but from ourselves. And you see it in almost every sort of thing that we do nowadays, whether it's binge watching or going out or whatever you do to distract yourself. Yet, despite what we do, we still feel incredibly lonely. One of the things I've experienced is I used to socialize so much more than I do now. A lot of nights out, especially when you're an entrepreneur, you attend a lot of networking events, really great venues, to be honest. And you tell yourself you just need to build sort of more influence or more reputation and credibility that when you are recognized that, more and more people will get to know you and want to know you and you'll feel incredible with all these people around you. But that never happened. I always felt really, it's weird. You go out to this high energy place, you get slightly intoxicated, you feel a bit good, but the very next day you feel the same. And this general sense of just being alone is just always there. And I think really that the problem that we need to confront is really this disconnection from ourselves, first of all, really confronting and meeting ourselves, really understanding ourselves much more, which is something we don't really spend time doing. But also, if we're fortunate enough really to meet people who connect with us in the right ways, who share our values, the sort of friends that are truly, truly very significant rather than just acquaintances that bring a sense of pleasure or utility. I think that's very rare. But again, it's not something that's easily solved, and no amount of distraction can solve it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right in that everyone experiences it. It's like there's being alone, but then there's being lonely, and lonely is kind of that involves the emotion, but you can still be alone and be okay. And I think it's maybe more than a psychological thing, rather than the external, how many people are being around. I mean, the best depiction of loneliness I've seen is Edward Hopper, the artist, who
Uh-huh.
sort of does in his paintings. I don't know if you know that is Joel. Just Google Edward Hopper, and he paints loneliness and this kind of eeriness where there'll be a couple people in a cafeteria, and the people aren't they're not vibing, they're not connecting, but they're still there, and so it really is like I don't think it is external. I don't think it. We've all heard of lonely in a crowd full of people, but I don't think
Yeah.
it's external. It's really the quality of your interactions and your relationships, which, as you pointed to there, the kind of the self-discovery of finding out who you are and knowing about yourself, and then finding who are those people that you want to connect to. That I think maybe is the solution. Yeah. Do you have
Yeah.
any thoughts, Joel?
I think the important mindset shift or just terminology shift is taking loneliness from being about not having people around to being not connected. Now, that can be, as Melvin said, it can be connection to yourself, it can be connection to others, and often, that is how it manifests. But it can also be connection to your work, connection to your reality, connection to nature, connection to the place that you live, connection to, yeah, the narrative that you think your life is, the story that you're living out. And I think if I was to maybe try and summarize human desire down to one thing, I would use the word connection, because that does summarize things we talked about previously and this idea of loneliness. And it does incorporate the fact that you can be around people and feel so lonely because they can physically be there, but be so disconnected. And so that's what I guess that's sort of if I just personally reflect, I mean, a lot of my transformations to become the person in this call now, doing this kind of thing, came during like COVID and the lockdowns and life being put on pause like that. And it was because I kind of realized I was no longer connected to the things that I used to care about, and that includes people. The friendships around me were not healthy for where I wanted my life to move. And so
Mm.
yeah, I think this is really important, and I think it's a problem these days. But I think the information is out there for people to figure that out and improve it.
But for guys like us that are maybe interested in ideas, I feel like we attract loneliness in a way. I mean, yeah, everyone probably experiences loneliness, but the more people that I mean, there's not maybe as many people think interested in philosophical ideas, and so that makes it less kind of able to attract the same sort of people.
I think there is something to that. I think it's because is the general person as interested in this stuff as we are? No. I mean, that doesn't mean you can't have a nice small talk, surface level interaction, or like be friends with someone or have a functional friend that you're a colleague or a teammate with that doesn't get your weirdness, but you can sort of rub along with pleasantly. But yeah, it's rarer to find people that say would want to have a conversation like this. But I think the other side to that is when I do come across somebody that does want to have this kind of discussion and sort of connects with that part of me, it's so deeply meaningful that it's kind of worth it. And I also think we can connect to ideas in many ways, like we connect to people. And I feel connected to thinkers and psychologists and philosophers that I've never met before and maybe can never meet because they've passed away. But I'm
Yeah.
connected to them because they've informed my view of the world. And that sounds a little bit abstract, but there's something to that. So it's kind of a
Mm.
double-edged sword.
Yeah. I think, Charles, you made some really great points and really resonated with me, especially when you talked about desire being about connection and really the sense of narrative that we want to connect to as well. I think it was Henry Bergson who said that time is not really measured so much in just, time itself, but in narratives. And if you look at these, the culture today of contemporary society, narrative is dead. We're basically given things in chunks. Everything delivered instantly and in chunks, as in they're not only instant, but also very short, that you don't really have time to build the sense of narrative, which is why I think why so many people are so restless. We don't spend time really trying to get into something, whether that may be work or maybe that may be even media, movie, a good book, or even friends. We expect things to be so instantaneous that there is no narrative. When things are instant and delivered in fragments, you don't really build the sense of narrative, which then you don't build the sense of connection. And I think that's why so many people feel so disconnected. But really, when you spend time actually doing something, for example, when you spend time writing something, as opposed to letting ChatGPT do it for you, the sort of fulfillment you get from that, the sort of connection you get towards the work is so much greater than just doing it in an instant prompt. Same with media. I recently had a conversation with a friend who was telling me, oh, I've just been really into these movie summary channels on YouTube. And I said, what's that? And they said, well, basically, it's a channel that tells you what a movie is about in 5 minutes. And me being sort of an amateur cinephile, I said, what's the point of that? Because you don't really watch it. You don't know the cinematography or the acting. You just know the story. Oh, you say, oh, it's great. But then again, I bet if I were to ask him 2 or 3 years from now, so in the past few years, what's your favorite film? You can't really name one because he never built a connection towards the movie by actually watching it properly, with full attention. Same with the people as well. Nowadays, when you meet people, it's just so sort of high and by and so instantaneous. You're expecting something immediately. You don't spend time actually getting to know them. And the same thing with yourself. We don't spend time getting to know ourselves. And I think this sort of disconnection from narrative and narrative building is also a plight of contemporary society and contemporary culture.
If I kind of use this in a more sort of a community and society example, I really like what you said about how society today is in chunks, or it's more narrower, maybe the way that people interact.
Shallow, shallow,
Yeah.
I think.
Um, there was this really good. This is a friend of mine called Riyadh. It's his idea, but he basically said like, "Do you think that we live in one society?" And his answer was no. Do the kind of religious Christian people live in the same society as the sort of the people that are going out every night in the kind of uni context? Do they live in the same society as maybe the sort of nerds that are trying to get the sort of 78, the 80s and in their test? And it's like I kind of don't think they don't live in the same world. And then the question is, well, how do you create a society that you want to be a part of? And the answer to that is, well, to connect, you need a good leader. I think the leader is what unites. And if we're sort of um we want to build a society of sort of deep thinkers, sort of people that speak the same emotional language, um, then I think not that we have to lead, but we have to think that I can influence this and I can change this. And then we can sort of connect with other people like ourselves.